Hey everybody, and welcome to a new video where we're talking about active intraday trading. And specifically, we're going to be looking at some trading and walking through what happened. Now, in this video, I'm going to be pulling up and we'll be watching these trades back, and then I'll be doing a bit of a reaction video based on that. So I'll be excited to go through this with you. I specifically picked out this trade that I want to walk through with you all because I feel like this will give a very clean insight into what trading looks like day to day. This is really going to, what I feel, cut through some of the hype and some of what we see portrayed out there of the ease of trading, and really showcase some of the issues and some of the things that we just have to deal with as traders. And trading is not always this clean-cut thing, get in here, exit here, but sometimes it's just a lot dirtier, and we got to get in there and we got to deal with it. And so I'm excited to go through this video. Let's go ahead, we'll pull up the chart and jump right into it. Okay, everybody, welcome back. And what we're viewing here is just a trade that was taken. So this will be me up in the corner at the time of the trading, not to be confused with the me over here that is narrating this thing. I probably should have worn a different colored shirt or something, but I only own white. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna play through this video and then just comment along the way. There'll be some really useful things to pick out from this, okay? One of the probably first things as we're starting this video that we can point out, or I'd like to draw attention to, is one, my facial expression. This is my sad trading face that we're seeing right here, and for really good reason. Let me catch you up and explain. We're jumping right into kind of the later part of the trading of the day, of the morning session. Let me explain what just happened. If you see on the other side here in the top left-hand corner, you'll see that I'm down $775 on the day. So I'm in the negative right now. Now, what just happened is I was up nearly $700. I put on a long trade. I got crushed out of it and then flipped around from being up nearly $700 to being down nearly $800. And so let me walk you through what just happened and kind of catch you up to where we are coming into this. And why my face is so sad. What happened is, leading into this morning, I had built a little cushion being up right around $700. And this is normally how I start my trading day. Most of the days I come in, I'm fairly conservative. I start off with small size, and then I see how that day is shaping up. If it's something that I just cannot get in sync with, and I can't seem to read what's happening, I keep the size small, and I try to expose myself as little as possible. But if, as the day is shaping up, if I get in flow and I can see what's going on and I can get in sync with it, then I look to increase that size and really try to make something of the day. Normally, I've built a small cushion and then I ramp up after that. So this is what happened. I had made some trades earlier, built up a nice little cushion, and I increased the size on this last trade, looking to ramp this up. What I was looking for was right in this area. You can see there's the overnight low right here, and then there's this trigger level that was drawn during my preparation. What I was looking for is us to chop around, but to hold this overnight level, to hold this trigger level, find a base here, continue higher, going for a new high of day, and then targeting this next trigger level above. So I increased my size, I entered in, it chopped a little bit, and then we just flushed. As this drop was happening, I went to hit the exit, I missed my fill, chased price down, and got out at a worse price than I wanted. So the fact that I was down, went from being up to down so much, was not actually supposed to happen. This trade took more from me than I should have on just full size, no scale outs, all in, all out for all loss. Now, what happened is we flushed down, and then we came right back. And what I saw happening, and as price came back, and this is part of what I'm processing with my face, is I got shook and took. I was in a trade, it flushed me out, not because this was going to keep dropping, but because we just did a shake and take. And I was on the wrong side of that, and I got shook and took right out of my long position. So this is where we're coming up to it. And this is an extremely frustrating thing to deal with when we're trading. Getting in, having a good idea, having the market do something drastic, not because it was going to keep dropping, but because it was just being volatile and shaking people out. Getting caught up in that, and then realizing that your trade is still valid, your idea is still valid, and it's probably going to work out. Very frustrating. That's where we're coming into right in this clip. Okay, so that's an important backstory leading into this. Let's go ahead and keep playing through and see how the rest of this is just shaping up. There'll be some really important stuff to take away from this. Okay, so I'm drilling into this. Another nice thing that we can see, and you'll see in a second when I actually place an order. A lot of times I get asked, do I trade from the charts? Do I use, market orders? How do I enter? And if you'll see in this kind of the bottom corner, there's this black crosshair. That's my mouse when I'm on this chart, and you'll see how I'm placing in my orders. I was just over here entering in. And I'll be managing my positions and placing my trades right here on this same chart. Okay, so you can observe that. But the other thing, what's happened right now is I just re-entered on this long. The same exact long idea, but at a worse price, and after this is my second attempt at it. Last time I was in at the 96.50. This time I just got in at the 98.50, so a couple points worse. But what was going through my head here is the idea is still valid. Getting this drop that did not pull back, maybe hold VWAP and then continue lower, but getting this drop below VWAP that immediately came back, held VWAP, and then pushed higher, taking back the entire 11-point drop, that gave me a lot of confidence in the fact that my idea was right and that higher prices were still coming. So I was still getting in at this trigger level. Typically, and I think arguably we could make the argument here that we're holding this level from underneath, which would not be typically how I get long. But given what just happened, I had a lot of confidence in this going higher, and I didn't want to miss out on my actual trade idea, which would be like the double screw, getting shook out of it and then missing it altogether. So I re-entered, slightly worse, but still at a trigger level, not at a random place. I still got in at a spot, got in on a counter rotation. And I reduced the size. Okay, I got in, you can see down here with 3 contracts. Now, this is a part of what I'll be doing. And I think that this is one of the things I'll talk a little bit more at the end. But there's a lot of things that make sense on paper, but they do not translate into real market conditions. So one of the things, for instance, being down on the day and then reducing your size probably sounds counterproductive, like it's going to take much longer for me to get my gains back if I'm limiting down my size. But it's a very important part of what I do, and this is also part of why I had such a sad face, because I understood I went from being a cushion, being able to size up, to now being down on the day, and I had to cut my size back. So getting flushed out of this trade, didn't lose my mind, didn't revenge, didn't throw back on a bunch of extra size, stuck to the process, followed the rules, even though this is very painful to do, entered in with reduced size on this long trade, okay? Giving this a couple points of wiggle room, about 3. If this drops down and that overnight low gives out, I'm getting out of this. And looking for the same idea, for this to push to new high of day, and then ultimately looking for this next trigger level above. If you're looking at this, this would probably be one of the, between this and this down in here, would probably be the 2 best charts to kind of look at as we're observing what goes on here, okay? All right, so my size has been reduced on this, and going to be looking for my first initial scale out. I'm also being very cautious with this. I just got flushed out last time we were up here, and we are holding this trigger level from below for now. I'm expecting more to the upside, but we haven't gotten that yet. So I'm watching this. You can see where my trigger is, my finger is right here at my break-even point. If this, I'm watching the order flow very carefully. If this starts showing any signs of weakness, I'm hitting out, and I'm going to protect myself on this trade, being very cautious. Okay, so I'm watching this go up, I'm watching this go up, watching it hold it down on that price. And what I'm looking at here is as this starts to work out, okay, I'm expecting this to continue up. So as it starts working, I put my stop loss at break even, okay? I don't always do this, and it's still pretty close. We're only about 3 points away. So it's very common for it to go up 3 points, come back down, kind of chop around. But given this trade, I'm looking for this to have some momentum behind it. We just flushed out. We've brought it all back. I'm looking for that to keep moving up. The other thing is, as traders, one of our superpowers is we can always get back in anytime that we want. And so putting that here, if we drop back down and kick me out, and I realize that it's just being choppy, I can put this trade right back on. But if this drops down past my original entry, 3, 4, 5 points, and I'm sitting there holding it, I'm going to be in a big issue. So as part of being very cautious, as soon as this started working out, I put my stop loss to break even. Understanding too that the second entry was a worse price than the first. So if this does flush down and just chop, I could potentially get a better entry. All right, I've also switched over and put on some headphones. I think understanding how this day is shaped up, I think I was anticipating this to be a fairly difficult hold. And I'm really pushing this, okay? We've gone up 3, almost 4 points, and I haven't taken anything off yet. I'm looking for something closer to the high of day to scale out, which is fairly aggressive for me. And a little, I'm stretching this one a little bit. Now, another nice thing to point out is if you were watching, the point of control very recently shifted just a moment ago to this high, okay? It was down lower, it just shifted up to the high here. When I saw this happen, this was a big vote of confidence to keep holding on and be targeting those new highs. Very recently, I recorded a video talking about things you need to know about the point of control. I forget exactly how they put the title on it, but I shot and recorded that video. If it's released before this one, I'll make sure it's linked in the description, or if John, you can put one of those little things they can click on, and you can go check that out. But I talk about this exact situation here. What we're looking at is where the point of control is in relation to the value area and what we can draw from that. So I talk about it in the other video. You can go check that out if you want. But what I to say here is seeing that point of control shift up, seeing where it shifted, this gave me more confidence in holding and even being a little bit more aggressive with that first scale out. All right. Now what I did just here is I put in an order for one contract, and this is front running the current high of day. So what I'd like to do, and what I'll do is you can see where my fingers are here. What I'm doing is I'm tracking this up. And if we start pushing through and hit that 0450 to front run the high of day right here, this is the current high of day, this is the red line, it'll be front running it a little bit. If we push right up to that, I want to get the scale and front run the high of day. But I'm tracking this because if it gets close and we start having issues or it starts stalling out, I'll manually jump in there and take the trade off just so I can make sure I take some profit here. So I'm watching this closely, I'm waiting to see what happens. I'm trying to give this room and be patient with it. And I'm looking to front run the high of day for my first exit. And then I'm going to be targeting this next trigger level above that we can see right there. Okay, so let me just kind of skip ahead maybe a little bit. This is taking, this was a brutal, especially for that first exit where I didn't secure anything yet. This was a very brutal hold. Okay, so we're just moving up to that. Kind of holding right here where that shift happened. Okay, and you can see here we start pushing up. I'm just trailing this right behind. We pushed right into. So I front ran the high of day. The orders that I had resting at the original entry, I pulled those out because I no longer need 3 orders, resting there. I only have 2 contracts on at this point. And now it's a matter of waiting for new high of day. Okay, what I did just there is I put in those 2 contracts. I put in 2 contracts at my original entry. So if this flushes back down, I'm not going to lose anything on this trade. And I'll actually have secured about 6 points, which is really nice for the first scale out. Okay, so now it's just a process of waiting. There's not really much for me to do to interfere with this. And what you'll notice too, if you watch what I'm actually doing in the video, is I have like micro things that I'm taking my attention a lot off of the charts. I'm not being distracted, but I know what's happening here, and I want to hold on to this. I don't want to bail on it, but I want to understand when we push through to like the new high of day. I want to see what happens, and if we start failing, I want to interact. But if nothing's changing, I want to just sit on this. I want to wait, and if I'm just going to sit there and stare at my order flow the entire time, it gets very messy. And so on purpose, I stay very in tune with what's happening, and then I'm constantly kind of taking my focus off the chart slightly, just to kind of break that focus a little bit, okay? So I'm going to be looking for this to keep moving up. I'll skip around a little bit through this. I've put in another order here at the 0850, and this is just going to front run my next target to the upside. So I'm just watching this as it moves up. And the same thing goes. I want this to hit. I'm going to be tracking this up. You can kind of see where my mouse is. I'm just kind of tracking behind this. And if there's any issues, I'm going to jump in there and interact. And I notice an issue here. Okay, look at how these orders are coming in. I'm trying to be patient. I'm watching this. I want to see this pop to my entry. But I also have my finger right on the trigger because I will interact with this and I'll hit the exit. Okay. I think I got a little gnat flying around in the office here. Okay, so I just hit the exit before that got filled. Let me back this up a little bit just so we can see it. I had my resting order there. I pulled that order out and then hit the exit manually. All right, so I pulled that order out. There's no order there anymore. I'm watching this go, and then I'm going to manually jump in there and hit that out. Okay. So I took that one off about a point earlier. As this was moving up, we had all this, these orders that were going off right in here. Nothing necessarily has changed yet, but what I don't want to do is sacrifice a really good exit for just a few ticks. So I took it off 1 point early, understanding that I had about 10 points. I'm in at the 98.50. So I had I was looking to get about 10 points on this second scale out, and I ended up taking it off for 9. But what happens here is as we trade, things change. Our exposure to risk changes, and this is something very important to understand. When I'm in a trade, I have kind of my initial risk that I put on, but as that trade works out, things are different. So what happens in this situation? I'm looking to get that extra point, but I have 9 points on the table. So what I'm now doing is I'm no longer risking my initial amount. I'm now risking 9 points to try and get 1 point. That's how this breaks down. And as traders, we have to be able to think through these things and understand that we don't know what's happening next. I could be 9 points up and the whole thing could just drop out. Not that long ago, it flushed me out for 11 points. And so seeing this shape up and seeing not just being scared and jumping out for no reason, but if you see down here in the corner, there was something going on right here. I don't know what. It's not enough for me to take the whole trade off and freak out, but it's enough to where if something goes wrong here, I don't want to miss my scale out for that 1 point and sacrifice the other 9 that I have on the table. If your strategy and the way that you manage your trades is get in, and if it goes here, I lose. If it goes here, I win. If it's that simplistic, you're really more in line with gambling than you are with trading, because trading and managing risk is not just binary here and here. It's really about managing possibilities. And as traders, we have the ability to get in there and manage these things, and it's a big part of our job. And this, I think, is a good example of what that looks like. Not micromanaging a trade, not getting out early because I'm just scared, but having an idea, shaping up, getting real close to it, and then taking off a little bit of a different price. Okay, so at this point, I've taken off 2. I have 1 contract left on, and I'm looking for this to get through. I have an order resting at the 14. So just kind of getting to the other side of this trigger level, breaking through it, and then looking for a little bit more continuation to the upside on this trade, okay? So I'll be watching this. I'm very interested in how this is treating this blue line running right across. This is the initial balance high. If this was to just fail back through pretty hard through the initial balance, that would be a pretty bad sign. I'd want to see this holding to the, holding outside the initial balance. Okay, so I'll just skip around a little bit just to speed up through this. It's just a waiting game at this point. Okay, pushing right into this trigger level. Okay, I'm just following this up as it goes, looking for the 39.14. Watching. Okay, I've just put an order in a little bit lower. I'm looking to get out of this right now. I just removed those orders out. There's no orders in the book right now. And I just hit and filled immediately, I think right at the 12. Okay, now I'm flat on this trade completely. Front ran that just a little bit, okay? Now, here's why I front ran this last one. Where we have on a rotation here, we're about 8 1/4 points straight up on this move. The S&P is a very rotational product, and you can see, if you can see any of these other numbers here, these are the size of these rotations. And besides that one move that just flushed and came back, those had large rotations. There's only one other 8-point move visible. This is really the largest rotation we can see besides that one flush and take back, that shake and take. So we're very overextended on this move. I'm looking for an additional couple points, 6 ticks, something like that. But understanding it's more likely that this is going to rotate back, but other than continue up an additional 2 points. We're already very overextended. And so expecting that this is very likely to rotate back, potentially rotate back and never quite finish, I went ahead and took this trade off. Okay, that extended target that I had was not as likely as the actual trigger level. It was the additional thing I was looking for. So I wasn't as confident in that target. We were very overextended on this rotation. So I went ahead, hit the exit, and secured the profit on this. Okay, so they get flat on this trade, and it's done and done. Now, you can see from probably my face here, this is a really good spot to pause this on. Not overly happy, and it's actually quite difficult to feel good about this trade based on how this day shaped up and how frustrating this is. This trade worked out, and I took this trade with much larger size at a better price, and I had a cushion already. Then, when the market just did that fuck all move, I took the same trade, but I had to get in at a worse price. And now I started this trade in the hole. So as this trade played out, instead of it just playing out the first time and having a phenomenal day, I'm ending this session, at least from a P&L perspective, in like an okay day. Nothing special about it, not at profit target, nothing like that. Looking at this and just replaying this trade, some of the main points about this is not really necessarily in this video drilling into the specific setup of why new high of day and why I was looking for that to play out. But it's more just kind of to showcase like how difficult trading is sometimes and how frustrating it is. And the ability, I'm telling you, to get into a trade that's on its way to working, that flushes you out and puts you from being up on the day to being red on the day, and then takes back and starts working. The ability to not get emotional about that and see what is happening, understand what is happening, and then re-enter in on that idea to take it back up is very difficult. This isn't something that I just developed on day one. This isn't something that you'll have on day one. And this isn't something you can just learn in a book or just read about. This is a part of a skill set that you have to build into your trading. One of many things that we learn, and one of the many improvements we make as we progress and as we become better at trading. But this was a very difficult situation, and these are the kind of things that happen. And there's been many times where I've been in this same exact situation, but getting flushed out of a trade going red and then losing my mind, getting incredibly emotional, maybe not re-entering, but just sitting there being pissed off while I watch the trade work out and go to my profit target, and then I just curse at the monitors and spend the rest of the day being depressed about the idea that I had such a good trade and the market, just screwed me over. But there's none of that here. This is not the market, did this to me. It was, listen, I got shook and took out of a trade, sucks. The trade is still valid. It's even more valid to me since how that drop came all the way back. Let's re-enter on this and still take the idea up. That's kind of showcasing the messiness of the market at times, where when we get into a trade and it just goes right to our profit target or goes right to our stop loss in a clean kind of orderly way is more of the exception than the rule. It doesn't happen very often. More often than not, we get our ideas or we get our setups that play out, but it plays out with some type of a variation. I'm expecting that this overnight level, this trigger level holds and we continue higher. But before we do that, we just go fuck all and then we come back. The idea worked, but it had like that weird variation that I didn't account for and that at the time of entry I didn't see coming. Another really important thing that I would like to point out in this video, and the reason why I picked this trade, is I said it in the beginning, but there's a lot of things that get circulated around in the trading community that just do not work. They sound good and they're developed or they're thought about by people who aren't actually using this and running it through sample sizes, and they're not speaking from a place of experience. They're just thinking of speaking from a place of theory. And these things sound good and just get passed around, and a lot of things make sense on paper, but they do not work in real life when you go to take it to the market. One of these things is the idea of if you are down and if you are losing, you should be increasing your size. What was nice, I think, to see in this video, if you can take away, is how this worked out. But what's been my experience, there's certain days you are just out of sync with what's happening. You are not in a frame of mind, you're not seeing things correctly, or the market is just doing something unique that's beyond your skill level to take advantage of. And when that's happening, the worst thing that you can do is keep increasing your size. And if you're experiencing drawdown, there's certain times you just need to step away. But if part of your strategy says as you go down, you're going to increase the size, it makes sense that you're going to get that back more quickly. But in real life, this is not what happens, because typically if you're getting a big drawdown, it's because you're out of sync with the market. And throw any amount of money at that you want, that's not going to magically put you in sync with what's happening. The more money you throw at it, the more damage you do. And what'll happen is you might go down, be putting more size on, and then 7 out of 10 times, 8 out of 10 times, you bring it back. So you think that's a valid strategy. You come back to break even, you come back to being profitable for the day. But the 1 or 2 times that it doesn't work, you just will blow out your account. Even if it's not increasing size on losing trades, but just as your day goes in general, increasing size when you're in the red. Part of what I'll do, and part of how my process works, reducing size if I'm not in sync with things. So if I have a cushion, if I have some, if I have a good read on the day, increase size and see how I can take it. If things are not going well, if I'm getting emotional about something, just cutting back and reducing size. And what we saw in this example, I took a loss on a pretty good chunk, or a bigger chunk of contracts, and then I was able to bring that back with much smaller. The argument could be said that if I would have put on larger size, then I could have not just got back to the green with a little bit of profit here, but I really could have had a good day. But we don't ever know what's going to happen next. And I just as easily, besides having this trade put on for the second time in work, it just as easily could have went against me again. And if I would have increased the size after being in a hole and it went against me for a second time, I could have done some real damage. Cutting that size back, if this trade goes against me again, I had a bad day, I hit my max stop loss and I'm done. I put on large size again, or larger size again. This trade goes against me. Now I've broken my risk parameters and I've actually, taken a big hit today. So I know I probably just making this video a little bit long and spending a little bit of time just going through that, but this is one of several things that I think gets very lost, and it doesn't make as much sense if you just practically think about it, but in real life, certain things make a lot of sense. Okay, so that'll be pretty much it for this video. I just wanted to go through this because I thought very specifically it just was a really nice insight into more specifically probably what real trading looks like. And I think it's pretty easy to just kind of showcase the good things that happen. And in a lot of situations, the market is not this tight, clean little environment that just goes here or goes there. And a lot of times we got to get into the dirt. We got to fight. It's a battle. We got to go through these emotional things that just are taxing. We got to get hit, and we have to be able to pick ourselves back up and get back in the game. It's a big part of what we do. Also a part of what makes this job very tough. Okay, so I hope that maybe gave some insights. I'd love to hear your thoughts. This was a pretty unscripted video. I know it went kind of long, but I just wanted to kind of walk through this in an unscripted format just to talk about it. But I'd love to hear what you thought about this, and if you want me to do more videos like this in the future. I think this was kind of fun on my side to put together anyway. So let's go ahead and wrap this one up before it gets any longer. Let's, on the way out, I'll hit the thumbs up button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.